Hey guys, welcome to another episode of Siffany's Walk with Grace.
Hi.
Think we're gonna start today with just a little check-in.
Check-in. I think check-ins are good because reflection is I think an important piece of growth, and the more we allow ourselves to kind of slow down a bit and kind of reflect on, where we've been and what our goals are and what kind of steps, what kind of growth have we been witnessing in ourselves and how do we feel like we're doing. I think that's important because I see it all the time where you think you're doing awful and and we don't realize what we have been working on. I think society is so quick. We are in such a quick paced society. It's really hard to do that, but I think I like to find the things that are the most helpful. So what's going to give you the biggest bang for your buck? What's going to give you the biggest bang for your time? And it's hard to wrap around the idea that giving yourself time actually is going to save you time. Okay, so giving yourself time to think about these and pause for a minute and do some reflection will actually is a big step in helping kind of propel you forward. So that's where I'd like to start. So how has this experience that we've been doing together, how has it been for you?
It's been a lot of fun, which is good because my life tends to be chaos. As much as I don't like to admit it, and a lot of my friends like to argue that it is, and I'm always like, no. Sometimes it really is. So it's nice to sit down and actually take the time to do something that I enjoy with somebody that I love. Mm-hmm. Not that I don't do it, but it's a lot more in depth than some of the just playing a game or watching a movie with a spouse or something or playing a puzzle, because I do a lot of those too. But the other thing is it's helped me kind of focus more on, I can't necessarily say the practice what you preach, but focus more on the actively trying to better myself on the stuff that we discuss and the things that we've worked on together through this and separately. But the reason being is that I'm the one that makes sure that the videos are good, and I'll go through and do if there's any edits that need done. I'm going to be the one doing credits starting here soon. I'm currently getting a picture together for the beginning and the end, so that'll be cool. Yeah. And so watching these back and playing them back and then going through and labeling them and then making sure that they transferred properly and doing the clipping and the editing, I'm listening to it more. Yeah. Which the more that you enable something into your life, the more that you are attracted to that. Research shows that positive thinking gives positive feedback, negative thinking gives negative feedback, and what you give is what you get. And so by focusing more on all this positivity that we are working on, I've seen more positive results. And that to me is really powerful. And it's also been a neat experience because I'm very open, but in some ways I'm very closed off. And it's helped me open that side more, which has been a side that kind of, I guess, intimidates me or scares me a little bit at times. Yeah. And the fear of judgment is always there for anybody in anything that we do. So that's very natural, I feel like. And there's a little bit of that, but at the same time, haters make you famous. So...
So you're talking about kind of that willingness to kind of go deep,
yes,
in maybe areas that you wouldn't.
The more exposure, more. Here's a good way to put it. All right, when I open up with you guys on here, sometimes it's a very intimate, to me. to open up that way.
Mm-hmm.
And usually you get intimate with someone, you get to know each other first, right? Or you at least had a couple drinks or something. And I'm just like, hey, stranger, look at my soul. So I think that's what makes it kind of different. But at the same time, it's not a bad thing to have. I mean, that is how you enable yourself to truly be able to help people, is by enabling yourself to admit things that have gone wrong in the past that you may or may not have been involved in the actual undoing of, and going through these various situations that are hard to talk about, because I mean, people don't know about them as much because they're harder to discuss. And not everyone wants to go to necessarily a therapist's office. Some of them would rather learn how to manage it at home, or find different methods to maybe help manage it better, or something of that nature. And not everyone is going to feel comfortable going to someone and going, hey, I've got this really crazy issue that, like, super embarrassing to talk about. You got a minute? But if you can find something online and someone that's real that you can relate to, sometimes that can be enough. I believe that music is a very powerful way to do that, but sometimes you might need a little more. I personally get a lot of it from music. As a lyricist, I dig pretty deep in those lyrics and the meanings behind them. So sorry, that was a lot,
but it was good. Yeah. I think for me, yes, that whole thing about really sharing deeply and to strangers. It's one thing you and I have shared deeply for years, and we're comfortable doing that, but that's just us. No one's listening in, but we frequently, as we're talking, we're like, gosh, that was really cool. Wow, wouldn't it be cool if we could share that? And so,
like, man, how many people could benefit from that realization I just had?
Yeah, that
with your help.
We just had, oh my goodness. And vice versa. We spent some time on the phone yesterday, Siffany and I, and one of the things that we had mentioned, that I was talking about, is this idea of teaching and learning. We're always doing it. It's part of life, right? We're putting something out there, and we get information from it, and we pull it inside and we do something with it, and then we put it back out there. So as you were saying, as you're making these edits on the videos and you're listening again, and we always seem to get something different the second time around, or the third time around, or whatever. So the more we work with something, the greater our understanding of it, and then the application comes in there too. So I know yesterday one of the big things I was telling Siffany is, I don't want anybody out there to think we're perfect, or that we have somehow arrived and we've figured life out, and so we're all hunky-dory and we're here to share the great news. It's
the reality of it is, I was bawling my eyes out for about 40 minutes before we started. We were like 45 minutes late starting because of me this morning. So there's your reality.
And that happens, and there's times I'm not in the right place to be sharing something out here with you, because it's deeply affecting me, and actively at the time, and I'm still kind of working on that. I'm trying to wrap my own head around it, and trying to think about my own tools I've learned or whatever. Or I'm out searching, looking through YouTube and books and things like that, trying to gain some deeper understanding of myself. So that's really what this is all about. I think that's what life's about. So I learn from Siffany as we talk, and she's teaching me as I'm, sharing my stuff and teaching, and it's more about, it goes back to that understanding and just sharing, rather than, teaching, student teacher. it's just kind of
I see it as kind of the infinity sign, like.
Oh, I love the infinity sign. It's my favorite symbol.
We share with each other, so reconjoins, right? Like we might part ways, and there's this little bit of reflective time, and then bam, we call each other the next day. Yeah. But then bam, we're over here outsourcing that information to these people over here, and then we come back and reconnect and go, ooh, guess what they got out of it, and how cool this was. And then we're over here talking and reflecting again, and then it goes back out to you. Yeah. And so I see it as an infinity sign. Yeah, personally.
It's my favorite symbol of all time. There's so much there, and you can look at it in so many different ways. One of my favorite ways of looking at it is, and you can do it right side up, so it looks like an 8. You could turn it to the side, and it looks like maybe a bow tie. You can put them together. I mean, there's so much you can do with the symbology of the infinity sign. But I see kind of going upward as maybe your upper chakras, so you're thinking, you're communicating, you're all the airy kind of stuff, and then as it goes down, it's more the earthy life kind of stuff. So
I've never looked at it that way.
Yeah. See, isn't it cool?
I actually kind of like that.
Yeah. So I'm working on stuff up here in the head realm, in the throat realm, which is going to be, you're talking, you're communicating, your crown, which is, divinity coming in, your connection to the divinity, and kind of trying to pull it all together. And then it's gonna bring its way down, and you're gonna actually work on it in your life, in your day-to-day activities. And to me, that's your lower chakras, that have everything to do with, kind of our earthly existence here. And it all culminates in the middle, is where I see the X going. So you've got your top, and then you've got your bottom, and that's your heart center. And everything kind of comes in and out of that heart center. So yeah,
I like that
symbology. Yeah,
I like that.
Yeah. So if you look at that in terms of, kind of this reflection time, we've been doing kind of this work, and then, how is it kind of playing out in your life? And so what new is coming up for you? And I look at those things as, themes. I often see themes happening in people's lives. I really like symmetry. I like things to make sense. I like to find patterns. I do that in particular with emotions and thoughts, and that's how one of my favorite ways of thinking about things.
My thing is sliding.
And Siffany is she's much more
chaotic. Neutral. Chaotic. I really enjoy abstract art, and everything has to be symmetrical, but at the same time, I like the abstract. I like to not have symmetry in the symmetry. And what I mean by that, I know that sounds confusing, but I find abstract pieces where maybe there's a mirrored image right here, and then maybe that same image is hanging out up here, but you don't even realize it until you really break that picture down, and then you realize that it's perfect symmetry. And it's actually really cool. I love that type of art, but it's a completely different, I find symmetry in chaos. And she finds peace within the symmetry.
Yep, I love to look for patterns.
And so one of the patterns that we've seen with this series, and I think like I said, it's more of a reflection check-in, but one of the patterns that we've noticed within the series is boundaries. Boundaries keeps coming up.
Yeah.
And why is that? I think a lot of that is boundaries can be applied to anything, right?
Anything.
I mean, your child, your pets, your your job,
your work, your energy, your
spouse, your relatives, your friends.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and it's a constant. I think we really need to get okay with change, and that's probably anxiety's number one enemy, because anxiety would like us to, know. We know the rules, we know the way, we know we know what's going to happen if I do A, B is going to happen. If I do C, D is going to happen, and it doesn't always work. It doesn't typically work out that way. There's always new information that gets brought in.
Mm-hmm.
There's always, as healing happens, can you loosen the boundaries?
Do you need to tighten the boundaries?
Or
And we're
tighten
going
the
to do a
boundaries?
completely separate segment on boundaries and the infinity sign. That's going to be our following episode. But, we're doing a reflective check-in. That is something that we noticed has been a pattern.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. And so, part of reflecting is kind of looking, kind of where you've been and what you're working on. And then it's also what new things are coming in. Mm-hmm. So, a thought that I just had is, you recently found out an affirmed diagnosis.
Yeah, so I haven't actually had the appointment with the doctor yet, but I got the lab results back, and at the bottom they put like a summary of the report, and it said 100% chance lupus. I want to say it was like 40 to 70% on surgeons, and I think 40 to 60% on connective tissue disorder. And so all three of those are autoimmune. Lupus is very destructive, deteriorative, but it's not near on the level of MS, and a lot of it is determined by how well you care for yourself at the end. And so my anxiety, I let myself, now here's another thing, you have to let yourself feel your feelings, okay? I let myself wig out the first day. I was like, whatever, just mind blank, like nothing else, no other thought process was able to happen for like the rest of that day. But I woke up the next day and was like, all right, I'm gonna smash this because I do not like to give up, and I'm not going out easy, and it's just another thing for me to show people that, I mean, you can find a way. Like, it doesn't necessarily mean it's always the easiest or the exact way you want to go, but, like, I feel like I was given a lot of my disabilities to try to show others and to try to help others to how to manage them and different things. And so I'm like, oh, well, here we go. Here's another one. And something I noticed that day is I was like, every time I get a diagnosis and I grow accustomed to how to work with it, I get smacked with another one. I was like, this is not okay. But why is that? Because I persevere the way that I do, because I truly feel that I'm here for a reason, and I have them for a reason, and I might not quite understand what those are yet, but I can't let my anxiety determine where I go with it. And so by means of boundaries, well, now I have to make sure that I'm being careful of what I eat. I have to set personal boundaries, which is one of the hardest freaking things to do, especially for food for me. And like exercise, I hate exercise. I went to the gym the other day for the first time, and like everything hurts. So
I think it's very interesting that this diagnosis has kind of come for you right now in the midst of what we're trying to do here, because
and we knew there was something in the lupus family, not to cut you off, we knew there was something there. We were just hoping it wasn't that one.
It's all grist for the mill. So what are you going to do with that? So the thing that stands out for me is that, most of you are autoimmune, and I've struggled with those myself. Well, we're here to kind of help each other heal, right?
Yeah.
Aren't we? Okay. So That's what I'm all
Heal,
about.
find another way. Maybe there's a method that you don't know about that's out there that we think
Sure.
so outside the box that we were like,
Yeah.
I wonder how many people could use some of this and benefit from it. So
Yeah.
even if it's not necessarily healing that you're doing, even if you're just trying to look for a different method and you find it here, I mean, awesome. Like that.
Yeah.
That's also why we're here.
And healing's kind of a charged word right now.
And broad.
And broad, yes. So, what will help? What's a good course of action for you? What have you tried? What is there more out there to try? And have you given something sufficient amount of time to see if it's really going to work? Unfortunately, a lot of things that we can do for ourselves take a while before we see a change. And that's why reflecting is important, because sometimes, it could be months before you're able to look back and say, oh, that is helping.
Yeah, I know one day I'll be able to go to the gym and not feel like I'm dying the next day.
Yeah. Yep. Going to the gym. I mean, you got to build that endurance, right? And you got to feel the pain before you can feel the better parts of it.
My abs feel like I was a punching bag for a good 20 minutes.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes it hurts more before it gets better. And we don't like that. we would rather, kind of wave that magic wand.
Bam! Perfect abs! Yes! Doesn't work that way.
Right. No. The big thing about autoimmune that I would like to point out, and how you can start pulling some of these things together, is we know it has everything to do with stress. And so you can kind of hone in on the stress. You're going to do what you need to do, what's best for your body physical wise. So it might be a new medication, it might be spending time at the gym, it might be, changing your diet, and all those things, which are
picking a different form of coffee.
Different, yeah. And then there's the mind work, which is, where I like to head. The mind work. How do you, so stress and learning to start to manage that stress
is ultimately going to relieve a lot of the side effects.
Yeah. And it has a lot to do with, guess what? Boundaries.
Mm-hmm.
So
we're doing a separate episode on that.
Yeah.
But
that's an example of how, everything kind of correlates and adds into each other. And, you work over here and you're actually helping yourself in other ways that you might not be aware of.
So with the reflection thing, like, find out now, and like I definitely felt that doing this and looking back and doing the edits and stuff is making me like really truly focus on it, which is good because apparently I need to. So
yeah, and
bringing that up also, not to cut you off, but like I do believe that everything happens for a reason when it's supposed to. I'm a firm believer in that. Like, I could have had this for a long time and they just found it now, but like, well, what would have happened if they'd found it before? Like, probably not very good things. I already had a lot of different diagnoses that I was trying to work out. And it may have been overwhelming. It might have been too much at the time. But right now, it's doable.
Yeah.
And I'm working on finding more peace. So, there's that.
Yeah.
But, I think, was there anything else you wanted to add to reflection before we close out? And
no, other, I mean, it ties in, and it kind of ties into that infinity, because as we learn and work on something new comes in, and we have to try to kind of integrate that, and it's all about integrating. So going backwards so that you could go forwards is important. It's important work. So
and as you're reflecting, remember to remind yourself the good that you've done and the growth that you've made too. Like, a lot of us tend to reflect and only focus on the bad. Make sure that when you reflect, you focus on the good too.
Mm-hmm. Oh, and another big piece I think of reflection is gratitude. Because, and that goes along with that, within that reflection, hopefully you're going to find, oh, hey, I'm doing that in a way that, I am using that, and I do see how that's helping, or whatever, and can that bring you into a place of gratitude? Siffany is saying, everything happens for a reason, and timing in that, and I've learned to be grateful for that, even though, as it's happening, our first gut instinct, I think, is no. I think Siffany
or panic button,
panic
button.
Well. Yeah, hold on, stop. I don't want to do this. But
where's the easy button in here?
Yep. But spending some time in gratitude and being able to reflect back and say, oh, that happened, and the result of that, I'm grateful for the result. That's how we can kind of learn from our pain and get through that pain, and so that we can move on to different things, whatever's coming next, because life is just going to keep throwing things at you. So
some things are great, some things hurt.
Yep. And can you find the great within the hurt, and can you give yourself patience and time to let that be? That's something that I often see, that people will talk to me about, well, now this is happening. I know, but and I can't possibly see how anything good is going to happen from this. And it's like, I get it, so don't go there right now. that's not
sometimes
where you're
you
at.
won't see it for 20 years.
Exactly. Longer, who knows, you may never see it.
It may be something that's seen 2 generations down.
Or it's there and you're just unaware of it. But I've learned to have faith in whatever that is for you, but to have faith somehow, some way, that it will, even if you never see the good in it, that it's there somewhere. But we've had really cool experiences where we've been able to look back and say, oh, now I see why that happened. Because now I'm over here, and now I'm able to see kind of why that happened, and what it did for me, and where I'm at now. And so,
and reflection can be kind of cool too, because when those moments happens, it's like, oh
yeah,
like, duh.
Yeah, it's where those aha moments are.
Yeah. And then you don't feel as crummy. So
yeah.
But thanks for joining us for another episode, and we'll see you on the next one about boundaries.
Okay.